this is an iHeart podcast.
People ask us all the time how we can save the next generation.
We've got our show, and the info is an antidote, but we also have a couple books coming out, Clay.
That's right, and you can pre-order both of them right now and be book nerds just like us.
You'll laugh, you'll nod, and you'll get smarter, too.
Mine's called Balls, How Trump, Young Men, and Sports Saved America.
And mine is Manufacturing Delusion, How the Left Uses Brainwashing, Indoctrination, and Propaganda Against You.
Both are great reads. One might even say they would make fabulous gifts.
Indeed. So do us a solid and pre-order yours on Amazon today.
Welcome back in, Buck. It is a day of reflection over Trump's remarkable accomplishments alongside of his administration. And I never would have believed the day. But as I look down at the roster, we have praise for Donald Trump from Stephen Colbert, Jimmy Kimmel, Joe Scarborough, and an incredible montage our team put together of all different sorts of Democrats singing Donald Trump's praises. I think this is, frankly, remarkable. And I think it deserves all of the public acclamation. We will run through some of those in a moment, but I just wanted to hit you with this, Buck. In the past 24 hours, listen to Donald Trump's schedule. Remember, we went from My Cousin Vinny. We went from Weekend at Bernie's. Apologies to My Cousin Vinny. Great film. Weekend at Bernie's presidency of Joe Biden. They tried to run Weekend at Bernie's too, where they would hide him. He could only do events from like 10 to 2. Then they would hide him. If they ever did any press availabilities, they gave him note cards to call on members of the press with pre-screened questions. Listen to what Trump has done just in the last 24 hours. He flew to Israel, spoke to the press there in Israel, met with Israeli leaders, spoke to the press again, met with families of the hostages, delivered an hour-long speech to the Knesset, that is basically the Israeli Congress, did another interview, flew to Egypt, met with the president of Egypt, spoke to the press again, took photos and chatted individually with dozens of world leaders, signed the historic Gaza peace deal, delivered another speech, met privately with world leaders, flew back to the United States. He touched ground publicly walking across the grass of the south lawn of the White House, I believe, Buck, at 3 a.m. One of the most extraordinary 36 hours. He took off at 3 p.m., 36 hours before, went all the way to the Middle East, did all of those things, got back off the plane at 3 a.m., and today is celebrating and awarding to Charlie Kirk's widow, Erica, the Presidential Medal of Freedom for another public event. For those of you who travel internationally, and I imagine a lot of you out there have done this at some point in time, it is, Buck, you just did this. You just flew to Taiwan and you just came back. Traveling internationally is one of the most draining things that you can do, skipping across 12 hours of time zones, all these different things, for anybody, no matter their age. For a 79-year-old president who has to be at the top of his game delivering one of the most consequential and I think well-delivered addresses of his entire political career, we're talking about superhuman, extraordinarily unbelievable levels of mental focus and energy to be able to put all this together for anyone, whether you are the CEO of a company, whether you're working in construction, whether you're a 22-year-old listening to us right now. That's an unbelievable 36 hours of accomplishment. And coming on the heels of Joe Biden, it is even more extraordinary, I think. What a 36 hours President Trump just put together.
It's been fun just watching all of the Trump adversary media having to find ways to package this for their audience. Overwhelmingly, they've taken the, he's terrible on, they say a bunch of things, and then they go, but I have to say, this is pretty darn good. And I don't think that there could be any more obvious, there could be no more clear endorsement of the massive victory here than even Trump's biggest detractors, at least in the media, are having to say, yeah, I think this is a pretty good one. Here's a great example. So, Clay, you'll remember when I did the Bill Maher show before this last election, there were a lot of things that were interesting about that. One is I was like, you guys are about to get absolutely smoked in this election. And the audience did not boo. I think they knew that things were not looking good for them at that point. It was, late September, I think, before the election, so maybe about a month ago. And the other thing was I said to Bill Maher, I think this was on camera, but I definitely said it to him off camera. I said, you know that he's really not going to destroy the country and it's going to be fine, right? I mean, you actually know that. And I swear he looked at me and he said, I don't know that. I don't know. I think he actually might destroy America. He seemed to truly believe that. Well, Clay, here he is. This is cut 3, having to face reality. Play it.
I always say this. You cannot ever deny success. You just have to give your respect, even if it's not your thing. Don't have the humility to give it up for enormous success on any level.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Trump, not my choice, didn't vote for him, but somehow,
a lot of people did.
And he's, I can't deny the success.
I can't either.
Yeah.
And he's the president.
And he's the president.
That's pretty much where any honest left of center person in this country has to be right now, Clay. You can't deny the success, guys. It's there. It's in front of all of us.
If Joe Biden had gotten all of the hostages out of Gaza and delivered a sterling speech giving the virtues of freedom and American leadership and traveled and just run through that 36-hour stretch, he couldn't have done any of it. Let's be clear. And that's why you and me and most of you out there did not vote for Joe Biden in 2020. Kamala Harris could not have done any of this, and she's 20 years younger than President Trump. But if they had, I would have come on and said, hey, you know what? This is a good result. As I give credit, Bill Clinton came out and said it. Let's play this. I mean, Trump is so successful now. You and I have, and we're going to sing Trump's praises because we think he's having the greatest presidency of the 21st century. I think we are in the midst. I hope some of you take the time to wake up and smile and be grateful for what we are all experiencing right now, because I think it's about as good as it gets. Here is a montage put together of Democrats and left-wing media giving Trump credit for the Gaza deal. This is cut 7.
This was very much a peacemaker's speech.
It's a terrific day for the hostage families. It's a terrific day for President Trump, for our national interests.
Do you give him credit for this?
No, certainly. I mean, this is an incredible accomplishment, an incredible moment.
President Trump deserves a lot of credit for bringing the parties together.
He should get a lot of credit. I mean, this was his deal. He worked this out.
Listen, he got the deal across the finish line. There's no question.
Things seem sort of possible now in a way that they didn't necessarily before.
A better future ahead. That's what today represented. It was so powerful and unbelievably emotional.
We would not be here if it wasn't for Donald Trump.
Okay, let me give you an idea of who was saying all of that. That's the Washington Post's David Ignatius, historian John Meacham, Representative Adam Smith, Democrat from Washington, former Secretary of Defense Leon Panetta, Senator Mark Kelly, current Democrat from Arizona, Jim Scutto, I'm not sure how you pronounce his name.
Sciutto.
From CNN. Sciutto. I don't watch a lot
also
of CNN.
Went to my high school like Fauci did. I know this because these guys get big requests to come back and speak at Regis. But yours truly, on the first or second largest radio platform, whatever in America, not a lot of love from the high school. Keep going.
MSNBC's David Noriega, Ted Deutsch, Democrat from Florida, and Arab-Israeli negotiator Aaron David Miller. Also, Stephen Colbert even said, cut 9, Donald Trump did something good. Had to make a joke about it, but cut 9.
Today, thanks to Trump's newly brokered ceasefire in Gaza, all living Israeli hostages and almost 2,000 Palestinian prisoners have been released. Okay? It's important. Credit where credit is due. Donald Trump did something good. Are we still canceled? You sure? I tried.
All right. Jimmy Kimmel even said, good work. Now, they got to make jokes on the backside, but they're actually giving President Trump credit. This is how successful Trump has suddenly become. He has united Jimmy Kimmel and Stephen Colbert in praise. Cut 8.
What a day for Donald Trump. You know what? He finally did something positive today, and I want to give him credit for it because I know he's not the type to take credit for himself. Trump was in Israel and Egypt today to celebrate a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. All 20 Israeli hostages are home after 738 days. Almost 2,000 Palestinian prisoners and detainees have been released. And while we're only in the first phase of what will undoubtedly be a long and tricky process, the fact is the bombing has stopped. The hostages have been released, and Trump deserves some of the praise for that. And so I know it sounds crazy to say, but good work on that one, President Trump. Now maybe you can not invade Portland. Just an idea.
Okay, like, this is, I understand they got to slap him on the back and make a joke or whatever, but the fact that Colbert, Kimmel, CNN, and MSNBC are all lining up for much of their day, Buck, and having to say President Trump did a good job, I do wonder what their moron audiences are thinking here. You and I are not surprised this happened, but this is what we voted for. We were right.
I would also add that they're limiting the praise to getting the hostages back, but the more comprehensive deal here, there's never been anything like this in Mideast peace negotiations involving Hamas, involving the future of the state of Israel. I mean, this is enormous as a framework for the Middle East going forward. And they're not saying that because, Clay, it's one thing to point out, okay, fine, he got the hostages back. We all have to admit that's good. I would also note, who was it? I can't remember, but somebody said 2,000 Palestinian prisoners. Those are detainees. They're terrorists.
The New York Times. The New York Times called it a hostage trade, as if the criminals that were under, lock and key were the same as the hostages that were kidnapped.
So I just want to note that on the one side, you have civilians who were kidnapped at gunpoint for no reason other than the barbarism and hatred of Hamas. And on the other side, you have people who were breaking the Geneva Convention in every way imaginable, fighting as a non-established military, killing civilians, all of the things that you could point to. Anyway, but they are trying to limit this to the hostages coming back. And they're not willing to say to their audience, Clay, even in these clips for the most part. Some of the more news people are alluding to this. Aaron David Miller's actually a sharp guy. I know him from years back, and he knows the region well. There are people out there who are lifetime policy wonks who are saying that part of it is a huge breakthrough too. And that's something they won't say on Kimmel's show. They won't say that Donald Trump not only succeeded as president in getting these hostages back, but Clay, he has succeeded more on Mideast peace than Obama, than Biden, than Bush, than Clinton, than Reagan, then Carter. Keep going back. That they will not say.
Let me ask you this. And I don't know. I'm curious what your answer is. We can talk about it when we come back because we're coming up against a break. How much do you think the average American cares or is paying attention to what's going on right now in the Middle East? In other words, does this move Donald Trump's approval rating in the United States in any kind of appreciable way? Or people like you and me and all of our listeners that are engaged on a day-to-day basis in the news are aware of this. But is this resonating with your average dad or mom sitting in a car line picking up kids at school? Like, is this something that matters?
I really don't think so. For the most part, I think for the Jewish American community, and especially because we had Carol Markowitz on yesterday. She has family in Israel. She has family that are in the IDF, right? So, that is very noteworthy for people that feel a direct connection to what's going on over there. But day to day over here, this will be swept up in the broader news cycle very quickly. And I think there's nothing wrong with leaving the diplomacy to the diplomat. Well, in this case, to Donald Trump, the diplomat in chief, and moving back to issues here on the home front. Trump has helped clean that mess up or bring that mess to an end. Let's get our focus back here at home. I mean, there's no need for us to have a split focus. I think that takes away from any of the initiatives, and they're not. The stuff with Portland and Chicago and the border and trade deals with China. I mean, that's all still underway too. this is a big news story more than it is a big Main Street story. I think that's fair.
Good analysis. Now we've got Zelensky coming to the White House on Friday. Within that construct, what is MSNBC and CNN going to say if Trump actually brings peace between Ukraine and Russia, too?
Remember that scene in Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark when they open the
answer
Ark?
is going to be 100% for me. But yes, I'm not forgetting any of those scenes.
It will be like that at MSNBC if Trump ends the Russia-Ukraine war. They will just melt in real, like there won't be anything left. They will spontaneously combust. Total protonic reversal. I mean, it'll be a total, I don't know what they'll do over there. All right, we'll come back into this here in a second.
Did you say Raiders of the Lost Ark? Oh yeah, when they look at the Ark. Well, we have double. I was thinking when they drink from the chalice at the end, and we have double.
That's the other one.
There's
that's
actually
the
double ones. Yeah.
I mean, it will be, Lawrence O'Donnell's show might be more like that, and whatever other shows are on, like Chris Hayes might be more like the Raiders of the Lost Ark, but people will melt or evaporate in real time if Trump actually does the peace deal with Russia-Ukraine. Database breaches are bad for business. When a cyber hacker cracks into a company database and steals hundreds of thousands, if not millions of names and other information, it can be catastrophic. LifeLock is your best defense, hands down. LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points every second for threats to your identity. If your identity is stolen, a LifeLock U.S.-based restoration specialist will help solve identity theft issues on your behalf, guaranteed or your money back. Plus, all LifeLock plans are backed by the $1 Million Protection Package, meaning LifeLock will reimburse you to your plan's limits if you lose money due to identity theft. Stay smart, stay safe, and stay protected with LifeLock. It's the best online defense there is. I've had it for nearly a decade now, so trust me, I know what I'm talking about. Get comprehensive identity protection with a 30-day free trial at LifeLock.com. Use my name, Buck, as your promo code. That's LifeLock.com, promo code Buck for 30 days free. Terms apply.
Saving America. One thought at a time. Clay Travis and Buck Sexton. Find them on the free iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcast.
You know, it's been 2 years ago the terrorists murdered more than 1,200 innocent Israelis, took 250 hostages, and today it seems like the cries of the dead and the dying are being drowned out by the shouts of anti-Semitic hatred. Yet, as the world may look away, a light shines in this darkness. Now, united in faith, Christians and Jews in America standing together with Israel this month by participating in a growing movement. It's the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews, Flags of Fellowship. Now, Flags of Fellowship unites churches all across the country, planting over 1 million Israeli flags all across the U.S., and together we will combat hate with the scourge of anti-Semitism, one flag at a time. And through our prayers, we can save lives, bring hope, and be part of seeing a brighter future unfold before our eyes. To get more information on how you can join the Flags of Fellowship movement, just go to ifcj.org. That's ifcj.org today.
There's nothing like sinking into luxury. At WashableSofas.com, you'll find the Anabe sofa, which combines ultimate comfort and design at an affordable price. And get this, it's the only sofa that's fully machine washable from top to bottom, starting at only $699. The stain-resistant performance fabric slipcovers and cloud-like frame duvet can go straight into your wash. Perfect for anyone with kids, pets, or anyone who loves an easy-to-clean, spotless sofa. With a modular design and changeable slipcovers, you can customize your sofa to fit any space and style. Whether you need a single chair, love seat, or a luxuriously large sectional, Anabe has you covered. Visit WashableSofas.com to upgrade your home. Right now, you can shop up to 60% off store-wide with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Shop now at WashableSofas.com. Add a little to your life. Offers are subject to change and certain restrictions may apply.
Not only did Trump have a huge win yesterday, as did really the whole Middle East and the world, the civilized world, but there were some people who have some bets that they made. Who should pay up, I would think. One in particular over at The View, Miss Alyssa Farah, formerly of the Trump White House, I might add, first term. Here, it turns out that she made a promise, and I think she should be kept to that promise, Clay. Listen to this. This is what she said on the air, I don't know, a couple of years ago.
If he gets the Israeli hostages out, I promise I will wear a MAGA hat for one day on the show and say, thank you for doing it. Yeah. And then she'll knock it right off my head. But like, you have to be able to cheer for wins when they happen and then call out relentlessly the wrongdoing. Well,
I gotta say, a deal is a deal. A promise is a promise. A bet is a bet. Like, however you want to put this. Clay, if you or I made a promise to this audience about wearing a hat during the show, we're wearing that hat. So the View has to pay up here.
Totally. If I had said if Joe Biden gets the hostages back, I'll wear a Biden hat.
This was last December, to be clear, but yeah.
Yeah, last December. She said it after Trump was elected, but before he had taken office. This is a no-brainer. A bet's a bet. She should pay up. Like when Buck Island went underwater, even though you had to get a snorkel, you took me to a fancy dinner and we had a great steak.
I did. True. I owe Jesse Kelly a Red Lobster outing. I have not forgotten.
That's
Jesse.
right. That's right. Fall's a busy time for kids. I mean, you got to get all those Red Lobster dinners in. They're not just back in school. They're on sports teams, in the band, theater practice, part of the after-school club. Trust me, everybody out there who has kids knows how crazy this is. But we didn't give our boys a cell phone until they were 14. We might have gotten a lot wrong as parents, but I think this is one of the things that we got right. But I do, now that the boys have cell phones, they're 17 and 15, we use Pure Talk to get them in touch with all of that. But in the meantime, if you got young kids, Rapid Radios makes a tremendous difference. Our 11-year-old has a Rapid Radio. We use it to stay in touch with him. He can't get on the internet. It can help to protect him. No setup required. Pull him out of the box, press a button. It is awesome. Visit rapidradios.com to save up to 60% plus free UPS shipping. That's rapidradios.com. Use code radio. Great for your kids. Rapidradios.com, code radio.
All right, welcome back into Clay and Buck. Things getting spicy. We mentioned The View. A little bit of a back and forth with the wife of RFK Jr. and Sunny Hostin, the most hostile member of The View on all things. I might just add. She's just the most hostile person on that show in general. But she was hostile with Cheryl Hines is her name, right? I know her from the Larry David show. Am I right? That's her name? Yes.
Oh yeah.
Team? Yeah. Making sure. She's an actress. She's married to RFK Jr. So they had a bit of a tete-a-tete. And we shall discuss that coming up here. Also, I think it's the biggest liberal podcast now. Pivot, you know this show Pivot for libs. If you're like a New York Magazine, New York Times subscriber, this is the pod. This and the New York Times podcast are the two.
Who is
podcasts.
on the Pivot pod? Like, I don't know.
It is, I forget her name, and or Professor Galloway from NYU. Scott Galloway.
Is it Kara Swisher?
Kara Swisher, that's right. Kara Swisher, yeah. And she argued with me about masks once online. That's all I remember from her, and she was wrong, and I was right. So apparently Buck is very smart, and she should say, I'm sorry that I was so wrong. But Scott Galloway, he actually said some very good things on some topics, I will say. But he weighed in. We're going to get to his analysis, Clay, of he talked about a possible Kamala run. And I think you'll be pleased to know that this is something that the libs are discussing now as a thing that may happen. I want to hold everybody in suspense over this one, though.
Well, also, did you see, and I love this, Kamala wrote, remember we had fun with this, that Gavin Newsom texted her out hiking, we'll call you back, when she announced that she was running, and then never actually called him back, which was, yes. I never called her back.
He ghosted the Democrat presidential candidate for
the entire campaign. Yes. Evidently, did you see this follow-up to that? After she wrote about it this is amazing. This actually, I give Kamala credit. This is unlike Alyssa Farr Griffin, like I'll call balls and strikes here. This is actually funny. I thought it was funny that Gavin Newsom never called her back because he said he was out hiking. Gavin Newsom was upset that she wrote about that in the book. And he texted, this is the latest version of this, Buck. He texted Kamala and said, well, I did post on social media an endorsement for you, and you didn't include that in the book. And Kamala Harris texted him back, on book tour, we'll call you back. So he finally texted her after a year of not commenting, like, hey, with the link, I did endorse you on social media. This should have been in the book. And Kamala Harris texted him back, on book tour, we'll get back to you. So my point on this is they are really kind of going at it in a very frenemy way that suggests that they are aware of being opponents in the 2028 election. And I don't think there's love lost here. You know this. Sometimes politicians can go at it in public and actually like each other privately. In other words, it's a little bit of a public show. I don't think Kamala and Gavin Newsom like each other at all, and I think they want the same thing in 28.
Yes.
I think they both want to run.
Before we got Eric Trump coming up a little bit, friend of the show, son of the president, entrepreneur, business leader. I mean, entrepreneur also, a whole bunch of things. So we'll talk to him about news of the day, his father's legacy, some of the things he's working on. But this Letitia James situation, Clay, I think is quite interesting. I read the New York Times most recent large piece on this story they wrote on it, and it is really a masterclass in doing everything possible to try to shift the playing field, the narrative in favor of, in this case, the defendant, Letitia James. Right? It's all, the storytelling, it's really masterful. You should go, Clay. If you haven't seen this most recent one, it's like there was a small, modest colonial house on a street. The flutter of birds in the background. Children playing at a nearby seesaw. And somehow this is at the center of a political, it's like everything is fine. It's, this is just this is like Main Street America. And then the mean Republicans come along. You can almost hear the theme music becoming angry and dissonant. But Letitia James has got an issue here. And that is she not only signed, and this is all alleged, of course, right? Because this is now before a court and she has been indicted. But the simple facts are she bought a home and got preferential treatment on the loan for that home because she indicated that it would be an investment property. I own a bunch of investment properties, so I've been through this process. Yes, sir?
She said it was a second residence, right?
I'm sorry.
And did not say it was an investment property.
Wait, I got to go back and check.
I think the way she said it was primary, but so let's break it down.
She said it was a second home for her.
I think she said it was she was not going to be renting it out because when you rent out homes, you know this because you've bought a bunch of rentals. When you're renting out a home, the down payments are higher and the rates you typically have to pay are higher. When you say it is a primary or secondary home because you are the occupier, you then are able to get a preferential rate.
Yeah, so here you go. This is the indictment says that while Miss James, I got this mixed up in my head, Miss James indicated to her mortgage broker that she expected to use the house as a second home, she had instead used it as a rental investment property, renting the property to a family. Now, here's where it gets interesting, or here's what they're saying. What she really did is not rent it and not use it, and this is where the thing gets a little bit more confusing. She didn't use it as a second home. She moved family members of hers into the home who then paid either no rent or so little rent as to be essentially de minimis. I mean, it doesn't. So she got the home as her home because basically then she's on the hook for both mortgages, her current home that she lives in and the secondary home if she says it's a second house for her. If it's going to be something that she rents out, that changes the equation for the kind of mortgage she would get. Sorry. So that is an important point of clarification. But what makes this more complicated is that she didn't rent it out and she didn't use it as a second home. She just used it for nieces of hers to go and live in. Now, the interesting part of this is that according to a few reports that have come out, these nieces, or one in particular, one of the nieces is a convicted felon. Now that, and I think is wanted also on additional charges in another state, that creates problems for you in the mortgage process or in the getting a loan and getting. So it seems like she may have falsified her loan application in order to help a felon relative get a home that relative would not have easily been able to get a mortgage for. And this is where the preferential loan amount, and they think it's about $18,000, $18,900 comes in.
Okay, let me give you my defense attorney hat here. All of those facts. If I am her defense attorney in a Northern Virginia courtroom, here's what I am going to say about this. And again, I'm not saying that this is my argument. I'm saying pretend you're a jury and I am defending Letitia James. And pretend the jury is made up 70% of Trump haters, 30% maybe of Trump voters. That might not even be an exaggeration, but let's say it's 70-30. In other words, there's 12 jurors. Let's say 8 of them are Kamala voters and 4 of them are Trump voters, just to roughly kind of lay it out there. Do you think 12 jurors are going to convict if her defense, Buck, which I think it would be, is when I bought this house, I intended to use it as a secondary residence to get away from the stress of New York City. You Virginians know how great of an area Norfolk is, how amazing it is to be able to get away. Then I had some nieces and family members who were destitute and out on the street, and I decided, because I had comparatively more, that I allowed them to move in. I wasn't ever planning this, but I just wanted to extend the hand as an aunt to family members that needed help. And now they're trying to prosecute me for this. If I could go back and redo the mortgage, I would change it to be more accurate. But life happens, and we adjusted on the fly. This is not intentional. They're coming after me because of my politics. Would 8 Kamala voters vote to convict if that is her defense?
No, I think that she's got Abby Lowell as her defense attorney. I don't think my guess is he's probably not even going to charge her. This is the kind of lawyer who usually gets
correct
mid to high 6-figure retainer and gets paid $1,000 an hour. That's what a white collar defense attorney, a top one. I've known some of them in New York. I have a friend who did this. That's what they make. They say, you got to give me $250,000 or $500,000 retainer and then $1,000 an hour. So
because criminal defense clients, as you may well understand, are not great about paying bills. So usually you're like, you better give me a big retainer because I'm not going to be trying to track you down if you get convicted to get paid. So that's the way this game works.
Doing white collar defense, stock stuff, frauds, things like that, healthcare fraud. You generally are dealing with clientele that have some assets, especially on the Wall Street side of things with insider trading. So that's where the high dollar white collar defense attorneys come into play. Okay. So she's got top tier legal defense. You raise a very good point about I've thought that all along. Look, we've told everybody, don't expect a conviction here. Okay. That doesn't mean it won't happen. And we're not trying to, I can't make a judgment one or the other. I'm not on this jury. I don't know, but it's not a slam dunk. And to Clay's point about it's a grandniece, by the way.
Yeah.
Here though is the additional component of this. The reports that are out that her grandniece has been living rent free with her children there. And there are reports that she, the grandniece, is a fugitive from North Carolina and has violated probation and still has a bench warrant out for her. That's what the reporting is, as I have seen it as of this morning. So the one thing that's, you're right. It's going to be, I was trying to help my family. It was a rental property. I just gave it to them gratis. But then, of course, that undermines the risk factors that go into the loan process. But still, there might be a bit of a tugging on the heartstrings there. But the fleeing fugitive thing may be a little bit of also a problem, just because you're the attorney general for the state of New York and people might not want to cut you as much slack for, playing around the edge here a bit when you're doing this for somebody that's also a convicted felon or might be a convicted felon.
Let me also give you a counter argument. I just gave you what I think the defense attorney case argument partly will be. I believe this house, correct me if I'm wrong, Crew, I believe it was $137,000. That is the Norfolk. And I know I sometimes screw up the pronunciation there. Is it I want to avoid the curse word, but I feel like I'm supposed to pronounce it like it's a curse word at the end, right? I'm not even going to say it because I get in trouble. So you guys in that area, let me know how I'm supposed to pronounce it. But how many people do you think buy a secondary home in this neighborhood? I looked it up, where a house costs $137,000. In other words, most people who buy second homes, it's you're wealthy and you are getting away from wherever you may live. You go to a lake, you go to a beach, you go to the mountains, and you're paying a decent amount of money for that second home. I think the reality is she bought this home intending for these grandnieces or whatever they are, relation to her, to be able to live there. I think she actually intentionally lied. So I think the challenge on this is, if you're buying a second home and you are Letitia James, and I think she has like a $600,000 or $700,000 place in the New York City area, based on looking at the images of this house, it's not like she bought a farm in a rural area where it's different. This is like not that nice of a neighborhood in this area of Virginia. I think she bought it intending to put her family members in this home. So I think she did lie. Now, she may defend herself by saying, I thought I was going to go kick it in Virginia and sit on the porch and sip drinks on
She's going to claim that it was a change in status that occurred after the loan, and that doesn't go to her.
That's the best defense she has. What I'm saying is, if you actually look at the facts, if she had bought some riverfront property that's beautiful view, or she had bought some farm,
why would she buy this as a second property?
Most people don't buy second properties, my point on this, that are infinitely worse than their primary property. You don't want to go to vacation, or at least not a different kind of place, right? Like, most people aren't buying second homes to go live in a home that's far worse than the home that they live in now. Most people don't buy second homes. They're not wealthy enough to do it. Understood. But this was not. She was buying this for her family. I think she intentionally lied. Now, I think she'll defend herself by saying, I didn't know my family was going to end up in these dire straits here. But I think the facts actually don't support that argument.
Well, this is like the old man rule that I've instituted, at least for myself, which is if I'm going to travel somewhere for like leisure, the bed has to be about as comfortable as my current bed, or else I don't want to go. Like, I used to rough it, man. I used to stay in, I would go to, like, when I was a college kid, I would stay in places where, I mean, heck, I stayed in places where I wasn't even sure my stuff was going to be there the next morning when I woke up, right? I mean, that was just the reality of it. Now that I'm an old man, I'm like, what's the thread count? Is it quiet? Will they leave me alone until at least 10 a.m.? Like, I am very different rules now for vacation.
Well, I will just point out, and all of you hikers out there are going to get angry at me, the wilderness has houses and hotels near it. I don't mind. Like, it's great.
Oh, man.
Hey, we're
Clay's
going
after you campers out there. Clay is a city kid at heart.
Not even like, I'm fine. Like, I'll go on a hike. I will go canoeing. I will go. I'm not really that excited about putting up a tent and sleeping on the ground. Now,
we are very simpatico on this one. And I grew up doing that because my dad liked to do it. And I did not like sleeping on the ground. I like beds. I like refrigerators, air conditioning.
Every wilderness has air conditioning. Every wilderness near it, not necessarily in itself. There's always a place to sleep where you can still experience the wild. And so I am let's experience the wild, but then let's return to a bed. Humanity has evolved so that we do not have to sleep on the floors. And I think we just admitted that
we both like glamping, and about half of our audience right now is pulling our man cards. So I think that just happened. I think we're on temporary man card restriction here on the show, Clay, because we see eye to eye on this one. I don't want to go anywhere where people are like, you might get eaten by the wildlife. Too bad. You're visiting them. It's like, I'm not into that. I want to at least be able to like get in my car and leave.
In fact, we had dinner with your dad recently, and you and your brother were talking about being abandoned in the wilds of Alaska with him on a trip.
The grizzly bears all around us, and they're like, we may not be able to get you guys out. You might have to sleep here. We had nothing. We were just going to sleep on the riverbank overnight because we got dropped in by helicopter, and the helicopter couldn't retrieve us, and we were freezing and had no food. That was a, quote, vacation. Okay? 10 years ago, that was my vacation. Hopefully you don't get eaten by bears in the middle of the night, boys. My dad, by the way, loves that stuff. He's like, you never feel as alive as when you think you're going to lose the battle with Mother Nature. Like, he loves that stuff. I have no interest.
Hikers and campers are right now just furiously from their Carhartt jackets lighting us up right now
in these emails and talkbacks, but we deserve it.
I mean, again,
we'll be safe. We'll be safe and warm while you guys are out on the trail.
That's exactly right. I mean, some of you still want to sleep in caves. That's not my thing. Oh, look, it's a great cave. It's dry. Yeah, there might be a bear in there. I'll just stay in a hotel.
When I'm not on the radio prepping for this show, I'm busy working on other projects, including a really exciting one, a weekly e-newsletter. And we're calling it Money and Power because we're tapping into all of our contacts across government, across private sector, across tech, and bringing you insights that can level the field when it comes to investing at Wall Street. And I've teamed up with some great analysts. I handle the political analysis. They handle the money side of this. You got to check it out. All the details can be found at this website, insider2025.com. We've already had thousands and thousands of you sign up for this, so please keep the momentum going. Or we're doing a big issue about the Taiwan trip this month where we're going to give you so much insight and details about what we learned over there. Go to insider2025.com. You'll get 82% off when you join today. Insider2025.com, paid for by Paradigm Press.
News you can count on, and some laughs, too. Clay Travis and Buck Sexton. Find them on the free iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
You know, it's been 2 years ago the terrorists murdered more than 1,200 innocent Israelis, took 250 hostages, and today it seems like the cries of the dead and the dying are being drowned out by the shouts of anti-Semitic hatred. Yet, as the world may look away, a light shines in this darkness. Now, united in faith, Christians and Jews in America standing together with Israel this month by participating in a growing movement. It's the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews, Flags of Fellowship. Now, Flags of Fellowship unites churches all across the country, planting over 1 million Israeli flags all across the U.S., and together we will combat hate with the scourge of anti-Semitism, one flag at a time. And through our prayers, we can save lives, bring hope, and be part of seeing a brighter future unfold before our eyes. To get more information on how you can join the Flags of Fellowship movement, just go to ifcj.org. That's ifcj.org today.
Time for a sofa upgrade? Visit WashableSofas.com and discover Anabay, where designer style meets budget-friendly prices, with sofas starting at $699. Anabay brings you the ultimate in furniture innovation with a modular design that allows you to rearrange your space effortlessly. Perfect for both small and large spaces, Anabay is the only machine-washable sofa inside and out. Say goodbye to stains and messes with liquid and stain-resistant fabrics that make cleaning easy. Liquid simply slides right off. Designed for custom comfort, our high-resilience foam lets you choose between a sink-in feel or a supportive memory foam blend. Plus, our pet-friendly, stain-resistant fabrics ensure your sofa stays beautiful for years. Don't compromise quality for price. Visit WashableSofas.com to upgrade your living space today with no-risk returns and a 30-day money-back guarantee. Get up to 60% off plus free shipping and free returns. Shop now at WashableSofas.com. Offers are subject to change and certain restrictions may apply.
Welcome back in. Welcome back in. Hour number 3, Clay Travis, Buck Sexton Show. Appreciate all of you hanging out with us as we are rolling through, breaking down all of the news of the day. And we are joined now by our friend Eric Trump. He's got a brand new book out today. It's called Under Siege. It is burning up the bestseller ranks. I think I saw it posted that it is the #1 release on Amazon today, which is a super impressive accomplishment already. And we'll get into the book in a minute, Eric, but we appreciate you coming on with us. Having said that, we'll get to the book, but are you still kind of processing how incredible what yesterday was like in the Middle East, and your dad having the 36 hours that he had, where even as we started off the show, MSNBC, CNN, heck, Colbert and Kimmel came out and said, hey, he did something really impressive. You know, when MSNBC, CNN, and the late night hosts are praising you, that your dad must have really accomplished something. What was that like for you to watch?
Well, guys, a year ago, he was literally serving French fries at McDonald's, and now he just served Middle East peace. So literally, it was exactly a year ago yesterday. He was doing the French fry routine and riding around in a garbage truck, and he just solves Middle East peace. And I think the most impressive part to me, listen, you look at almost at every conflict around the world, whether it's World War I, World War II, Vietnam, Korea, right? You had kind of a winner and you had a loser of those wars as predetermined. And here it actually feels like everybody won, right? I mean, you have people on both sides of the conflict coming out and thanking him profusely for ending the madness, ending the death and destruction. And then you have an entire world that's kind of coalesced around this victory. And I just think that's a really beautiful thing and one of those things that only he could pull off. And I'm proud. I'm proud of him as a son. I mean, listen, we're going to talk about the siege at some point, today, but everything that we've gone through, everything that they tried to do to destroy us, guys, it all became worth it for me yesterday, right? I mean, there were times when you couldn't quite get there, right? Was it worth it? Was it not? It was brutal. They tried to destroy your life. And then you see a man up there with the entire world respecting America. The death and destruction and evilness has ended. Conflicts all over the world are ending. Peace is being brought. Some son will go back to their mother tonight who would have otherwise not gone back. She would have been finding out that person was dead had it not been for his actions. And I think that makes this all worth it.
The book is Under Siege, My Family's Fight to Save Our Nation. We're with Eric Trump now talking about it. And Eric, I have a longtime law enforcement friend who, he's a big Trump supporter. And as the whole situation was playing out, the effort to use unprecedented lawfare, not just against your dad, as you have pointed out before, against the Trump organization, against Trump family members, against all of you, really anyone named Trump became a target. As you're going through that, he kept saying a normal, and by this I just mean an everyday person would be broken by one federal indictment, meaning, oh my gosh, how will I ever be able to fight this? And well, what is going to do my reputation? Your dad and your family are going through 4 nonsense criminal indictments and some of the civil stuff that you were having to deal with, including from Letitia James, which we were just discussing her situation. What was that like day in and day out? Did it just feel surreal? Did it feel like your dad was prepared for it and was able to be a happy warrior through the whole thing? I mean, bring us into that.
Yeah, well, listen, honestly, I was the tip of the spear with that whole thing, right? My father had certain constitutional protections that kept a lot of the subpoenas away from him, right? And so guess what they did? At 33 years old, he sat me down. He goes, honey, I want you to run the company. I want, you're the guy. You love real estate. You love building. You love everything we do. You've built so many of our projects. You run everything. You run our teams. I want you to carry this forward because obviously I'm going to Washington, D.C. And I said, no problem. And guys, I thought I was going to have this great time, again, building hotels, running a great organization. I never would have thought that 99% of my time for a period of 4 years, really a period of 8 years, was going to be, dealing with subpoenas. I became the most subpoenaed person in American history simply because I was the conduit to everything that he had ever built, because I was the guy running the organization that had, Trump on the front door. And so they came after us mercilessly. And thank God we had 2 things. We had a loud voice and we had enough zeros on the back of our name that we could literally spend. I mean, guys, I've said this plenty of times. We've spent about $400 million fighting off the lunatics. And this is the dirty dossiers. This is the made up Russia collusion. I was the guy that got the call from the FBI saying, I hear you have secret servers in the basement of Trump Tower communicating directly with the Kremlin. We didn't have servers in the basement of Trump Tower. It was all a lie. It was all made up by Hillary Clinton. It was all made up by Barack Obama. We didn't have damn servers, but they wanted to put us under siege, right? They needed a reason. They wanted their October surprise, obviously, to get, Hillary 3 more votes. But then when she failed so miserably against, a bunch of ragtag individuals who didn't know a damn thing about politics, i.e. our family, she needed a reason to justify her loss. Hence the reason they made this up. And they wanted to have this, the shadow loom over my father the entire time. They wanted this shadow government to try and take him down at every single step of the way. And then they leaked his tax returns. I mean, not only did they leak my father's tax returns, every tax return he had, this is the IRS, they leaked all my tax returns. They leaked Don's tax returns, the entire family. Then they leaked all the tax returns of all the employees, all our corporate employees. Then they silenced us. They took us off of Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. Then they gag ordered us. A lot of times you'd see me speaking on the front steps of the, of the courthouses around the country. Why? Because some of those cases I wasn't gag ordered in, but my father was. And so I had to be the person to go out and talk about, the judge's daughter who, apparently worked for the, Democratic Party and is one of the biggest, digital media people in New York State while her father is presiding over a trial against my father, right? And then they take him off the ballot of Maine. They take him off the ballot of Colorado. They do everything they can. They call up every bank and they try and get us deplatformed, debanked. I mean, guys, this was a non-stop siege against our family. But it wasn't just against our family. It was against the Republican Party. It was against you guys. It was against everybody who wanted free speech. They tried to hold all of us down. They tried to take away our voice. They wanted to destroy the greatest political movement ever made. And it's really amazing that we can be sitting here exactly 1 year later, 1 year after those court trials and everything else, having been vindicated in all of them, seeing what's happening to Letitia, seeing Letitia's case get thrown out literally 5-0 by the appellate court, seeing Middle East peace, seeing, inflation go down to nothing, energy prices go down to nothing. What vindication this is after everything that we've been through.
And I just wanted to ask as a follow-up, Eric, it's amazing to me to see what your dad has gone through and just observing him in public. Also, Clay and I have been fortunate to spend a fair amount of time with him in interviews and in a person-to-person, face-to-face setting. Your dad, I have never seen him look scared once. And this is somebody who was shot in the ear and somebody else tried to shoot soon after. And it almost seems superhuman to a lot of us observing. And I truly mean that.
He is superhuman. But that's the guy I've known my entire life. I mean, he's always been this Energizer bunny, on steroids, wearing a red tie, right? And a dark suit. That's always been my father. Everything that he's ever wanted to do, he's always charged, and it's his only focus. People don't realize he becomes very myopically focused on whatever he wants to do. If it's building the greatest building, he becomes myopically focused on it. If it's building a great course, he becomes myopically focused on it. His real estate career, if it was The Apprentice, he becomes myopically focused on it. Well, he did the same thing with politics. I mean, he just did this turn and just dedicated his entire life to politics and winning a race. He became myopically focused on it and I can't tell you how many people have lost money betting against Donald Trump. Don't bet against the guy because he's going to beat you every single time. And, he became myopically focused when it came to Middle East peace. I mean, that's the one thing that he always wanted to achieve. And that was probably the greatest achievement of all. It's something that everybody was laughing at. This will never happen. These societies hate each other. They've been warring for thousands of years. They'll never come together. And he goes, no, I want peace in the Middle East. I want the Abraham Accords. I want people to be kind of, prosperous. But he does not back down. He does not mince words. He's politically incorrect. And frankly, it's what people adored about him. I mean, you'd watch those primary debates, guys, in 2016, 2017, and all those sound bites were rehearsed, right? I mean, Hillary Clinton, well, it's very lucky that Donald Trump isn't running the legal system of the United States, right? He's throwing out these zingers. Yeah, because you'd be in jail for the rest of your life, right? And he's doing it off the cuff. And people like somebody who was finally real, somebody who wasn't PC, somebody who's willing to go out there and fight like hell, and somebody who's willing to work hard, because you just don't have that in politics. I mean, most of the politicians are lazy, they're canned, they're scripted, they're inauthentic, and they lose Americans. And that's why, there was never any excitement in politics before my father came into the race. No one was excited about Jeb Bush. No one gave a damn about Jeb Bush. And, now you watch these rallies where 30,000, 50,000 people show up to these rallies. People are excited. And by the way, a lot of those people are young kids who are, engaged in kind of the democratic process for the first time. It's a beautiful thing to witness.
We're talking to Eric Trump. The book is Under Siege, My Family's Fight to Save Our Nation. It's available everywhere. Eric, you just talked about your dad and his unique sensibilities when it comes to politics. You're a builder. You're a business person. So is Jared Kushner. So is Steve Witkoff, obviously your dad. How much do you think being a business guy made it possible to get a deal as opposed to a straight politics guy in the Middle East? I love this because deal makers look at solutions or situations and just try to get to yes. Whereas it feels like a lot of politicians get bogged down in things that don't matter. How much do you think business and deal making really was the foundation of what Jared, what Steve, and what your dad were able to do? And how much do you see that in your own world from a business perspective as looking at politics as a series of deals as opposed to getting bogged down in sometimes these intractable issues?
By the way, it's a great question. I'm not sure if I've ever gotten asked, but it's 100% being a deal maker. I mean, listen, Obama ran on what? Hope, right? I like hope. Hope doesn't get you anywhere in business. You know what hope gets you? Hope gets you bankrupt. You don't hope for something. You go out and you effectuate change, right? And that's what Jared did so great. That's what Witkoff, Steve Witkoff's one of my closest friends. I love him to death. But I mean, these, and guys like me, right? I'm out of business if we don't, if we don't get results, you don't get things across the finish line, you are out of business, right? Like that's what business is about, making the deal, right? Getting things accomplished, getting things done. Whereas Barack Obama was about hope. Hope isn't a strategy. Results are a strategy. And that's what my father demands. He demands results. Everything he does, every word he says is about getting a result, right? And that's a calculated result. Everything he does, every press conference, every meeting, every call he makes, every time he pushes his cabinet, everything he does, every person that he appoints, it's about getting results. And that's what motivates my father. And that's what motivates people in the business world. And so I think that's why all of a sudden you had this kind of, ragtag group of people, once again, who didn't know anything about politics, it might not have even known that much about Middle East peace, but was able to go in there, build relationships, negotiate well, get everybody to a table and actually effectuate change versus, these career bureaucrats who talk about how much they know about foreign policy and yet they're incapable of getting anything done. I mean, how many more times do you have to hear? Do you remember in 2016, 2017? Well, Donald Trump does not know anything about foreign policy. It's like, yeah, they didn't know anything about foreign policy either, and guess what? It took a really smart guy who could figure it out in about 3.5 seconds, bring people to the table and actually get something accomplished. It always makes me so happy when I see him just run circles around these people who claim to know something about foreign policy, yet they haven't progressed the ball in the last, 3 decades.
Well, it's been amazing to see and especially to watch a lot of your dad's critics eat a hefty dose of humble pie because of the huge win in the Middle East. So congrats to you. Congrats to your family and to the president. I have one last one for you, Eric. You and I are roughly the same age. Clay's a little bit older. But we grew up with the same movies, you and I, Eric. And your book is Under Siege, My Family's Fight to Save Our Nation, which is already #1. Everyone should go get a copy of it. Does this Steven Seagal, by the way, a vocal Trump supporter, does Steven Seagal's Under Siege make your top 10 action movies all-time list?
Yeah, by the way, 100%, right? I mean, Steven Seagal is like a legend for us, right? As was Jean-Claude Van Damme, as you remember very well. I mean, my father and I used to watch literally Bloodsport every single weekend. I mean, we love that movie.
We watched that too. It's Stephen Miller's favorite movie. He told us that on the show. #1 all time.
Buck, you remember the Kumite and everything, right? We love that Under Siege. I mean, how can you not? You had Gary Busey of all things. Gary Busey ended up being on The Apprentice with us for years. You had Steven Seagal. He was tossing people around the Missouri. Remember the battleship, and it was a great movie. But no, never did I think that would come into a little fashion in my life. I mean, listen, anybody roughly our age, I'm 41. Anybody roughly our age had seen Under Siege, but they literally, guys, they put us under siege. They tried to destroy us. They tried to do everything they could to cut us off, to silence our voice, to bankrupt us, to deprive us, to weaponize the media, to weaponize the government, to weaponize the DOJ, to weaponize to make up dirty dossiers, to impeach him, to go after, his Supreme Court justices, his inner circle, his family, to try and screw up his marriage, to try and screw up his family, to try and steal his businesses from him. That is the definition of a siege. And the good news is, and then, by the way, and they did that to all of America, right? They tried to go after, Americans and mainly conservatives vis-a-vis the IRS. They went after their churches. They went after their religious institutions. They went after their children. They taught them revisionist history. They tried to, confuse their gender identities. This is the siege that they put this country through. And we won the siege, guys. We won it. We won every aspect of it based on the fact that we had the most resounding victory in American political history, winning the popular vote, winning every swing state, having every state in the country tacked to the right. And so, guys, they put us all under siege, and we won. The greatest political movement in the history of this country won. And so, the book, as ugly as some of the topics are in there, actually is beautiful because you can beat the mainstream media and you can beat the weaponization of government, and we can win as a collective of Americans who love this country and love God and love our Constitution and love our flag. And that's exactly what we did together.
Amen. Book Under Siege. Encourage you guys to go check it out. Appreciate the time, Eric. Look forward to crossing paths down the road.
Guys, thanks so much for having me.
Look, we've had a phenomenal news out of Israel all week long. You just heard us talking about it with Eric Trump. You've heard us talking about it all week. It's been incredible to be able to chase and to see. Lasting peace is a great thing. In same spirit, it's worth mentioning our longtime partners and what they've been able to do. The International Fellowship of Christians and Jews. For over 40 years, the fellowship has brought Christians and Jews together to solve big problems facing the Jewish people in places like Israel, but also the former Soviet Union, feeding the hungry, helping those without means. Day after day, IFCJ teams are on the ground, hand-delivering boxes of nutritious food to feed and comfort the poor, particularly the elderly, including the last of the Holocaust survivors alive in Israel. I've seen for myself the work the IFCJ does on the ground. It's tremendous. It's an absolute gift. And it's because of the work and the kind generosity of so many of you out there. Put your faith into action by taking part in the IFCJ's mission. To find out how, visit ifcj.org. That's ifcj.org.
Clay Travis and Buck Sexton. Mic drops that never sounded so good. Find them on the free iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcast.
This is an iHeart podcast.